A would be the first one. By the time you got to V, I was gone. and I had KP, but I don't know where it was. I'd take a guess it was Fort Meade, Maryland. The notable, you peeled potatoes and washed dishes and stuff. But for breakfast, the cook, I was watching this cook, and he'd get two. He had a big pan, about that long, about that wide, about that high, and he was putting eggs in there to scramble them. Mm-hmm. And I saw him. He'd get an egg in one in each hand, and he'd hit the top of the pan, and then he'd just go like that, and the egg would go out, and then he'd throw the shells in a wastebasket, and I saw rotten eggs going in. After that, I mean, I don't know, scrambled eggs didn't taste the same. But that's the notable thing that I remember about the KP. Peeling potatoes and washing dishes and like that instant that I saw.
Who was the most unforgettable character that you ever met in service?
I'd say Robert Dittmar was, I had him till the end of the war. And he was one of these guys, you know, if there'd be shelling or something, he'd get up, you know, and I mean, we always asked him, what are you doing? And he says, well, if you're going to get hit, you're going to get hit, you know, something. But you don't beg to be hit, you know. Yeah. And another guy, the First Sergeant Fraterola. I can't remember his first name. But anyhow, when we was in the Army of Occupation, he was all beside himself because he caught venereal disease over there, and he was married and that, you know, but he was on pins and needles what he was going to do when he got, because it goes on your Army record, mm-hmm. you know, so he was really shell-shocked. But those are two guys, but a lot of them. We had a Jeep driver named Maldonado. He was an Indian. See, the 45th Division originally was an Oklahoma outfit, you know, and there was lots of Indians in it. Now, the only thing I remember about them, they was real dark complected, you know, they was almost like a black person. The only they was more reddish brown like. Mm-hmm. But we had a lot of most of the Jeep drivers were Indians. I remember that guy, Maldonado. Okay.
What were your opinions of the equipment, clothing, rations, and training of the U.S. military?
Compared to the Germans?
I think just what did you, yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, well, I mean, our stuff was good, but the German stuff was much superior.
Really?
Like the first part of the war that I was in, like our tanks had a 56 millimeter cannon on it, mm-hmm. and the barrel was about 10 feet long. The Germans theirs was an 88 millimeter, and the barrel was 20 feet long. I mean, there was no comparison between the two. We just had more equipment than they did. That's all. And their machine guns, our machine guns shot. Their machine guns shot about 5-6 times more bullets than ours did. Theirs, when it fired, it went, brr, brr, and ours went. That was a difference. Yeah. And their stuff was better, but we just out factored them. Where they had one tank, we probably had 50. Mm-hmm. That was the difference.
What part of the world did you like best in your military experience?
I'd say Germany.
Why?
Now, you could tell the difference when you went from France to Germany. The landscape and that was much nicer in Germany. The French were lovers, I guess. You could tell the difference in the towns and stuff. Wish I brought that other book with me. I'd have showed you. But like in France, like their houses were built long.
Mm-hmm.
They built long. This was the part of the house that the people lived in. This was the barn. It was part of the house, the barn, and in front of the barn was a manure pile. I mean that it was very different. That's all I can say. And and Italy wasn't as bad as France. Italy was fairly, but I'd say Italy. What I saw of Italy, it was battle scarred. I remember I was in Naples one time, and I met Stash Bosarski in Naples, and I remember at night Mount Vesuvius was active, and that was strange. I mean, you see this mountain up there and all red on top,
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was interesting.
Was this your first time away from home?
Yep, yeah. I think the furthest I was Wilmore.
Wow.
I never was in Johnstown. When I was a little kid, my mother was in Wimber Hospital,
Mm-hmm.
and she had her goiter out, and I remember when about 4 houses up from us, a man by the name of Gregor. He had a horse and buggy, and I was a little kid, and we were horse and buggy. We went for a ride to Wilmore or to Wimber, but I don't remember. I remember the ride,
Uh-huh.
but I was just a little kid then.
Yeah. What did you miss most about the United States?
A little bit of everything. The food. Well, when you're in combat, I mean, it wasn't stressful, but you was always busy. You was always doing something, and I'd say probably the time, I'd say about a week before we hopped off of Anzio, we was up on the front, and we were at Mussolini's Canal, and we was up there for 16 days, and the machine gun was dug in the top of the channel. Now this canal was about, I'd say 15 feet deep. In other words, we could walk around that canal and the Germans wouldn't see it, but I never saw what was in front of us. Never saw what was in front of us. And every day we'd get shelled, and I'd say probably 200 yards from the canal was Garibaldi's tomb. And we'd go over there at night and get our supplies. But 16 days, never saw what was in front of us. And we got shelled every day. And one day we got shelled, and the machine gun was at the top of the canal, at the ditch. And down here, about 15 feet away, was a hole dug in the bottom of the ditch. And they called that the safe hole. Well, one day we're getting shelled, and I just happened to be with the machine gun up here, and a shell come in and hit this one here, with the 3 guys in it. 3 guys, and after the shelling stopped, we went down, we tried to dig them out, and we dug down to where I got a blanket, and I pulled on a blanket, and I had a blonde-haired kid in my squad. A young kid with real blonde hair, and I'm pulling this blanket, and his scalp comes on the blanket. Dropped it, and that was it. We left it alone.
Yeah.
That was it. But I lost 3 guys there.
Did you take part in any combat action?
Yeah. Let's see. And there was another place when they was having the Battle of the Bulge. Yeah, you heard the Battle of the Bulge?
Yeah, I've heard of it.
That was over in Belgium.
Uh-huh.
Okay. but we had a little battle of the Bulge down where we were. And I remember we was down, there was a hill like, and then down here, and it was woods, semi-woods. And the machine gun was there. And finally, one morning, the Germans they was coming through that woods. They was saying, "Come raus, you kaput." You know what it is?
Yeah.
Come on out, you're finished.
Oh.
Kaput. That means okay. And so they elected me to go up back and find out whether they was supposed to go back or what, you know. So I remember going up this hill, and the bullets were flying all around me, and I made it up the hill, and the infantry, they pulled back, and so I never did go back down to there was 4 guys down there, two guys at the machine gun, 2 guys in a hole right behind the machine gun. So so we shelled that place and that, and so the next day we went down. The machine gun was there, and the Germans put a like a hand grenade underneath and blowed it up, and they captured the 2 guys at the machine gun, and in this hole behind them. Behind the machine gun was another hole, and there was 2 guys in it, a medic and 1 guy in the squad, and we found them, and they were shell shocked, and that was the last I saw of them, and so I lost everybody, the machine gun and everything.
How did you and your comrades regard enemy troops as fighters?
You talk too fast.
I'm sorry. How did you and your comrades regard enemy troops as fighters?
Okay, they was good, and they had superior equipment. But the only thing is, we just outnumbered them. That's all. Yeah. You know, I mean, and we had the air support and stuff like that. Like on Anzio, there was 4 of our planes would be over that beachhead for like I don't know how long they had to fly. Maybe half hour, 3/4 of an hour, an hour. These 4 planes would fly, and they'd go across the beachhead and turn around, come back, and that's all they did for an hour. And if the German planes come in or anything, why, they was there. And at the end of when they get down to so much fuel, they'd go back and bomb something, and then they'd go, and 4 more planes would come over. So we was watching airplanes all day, you know, and we was watching dog fights and everything else. But we just had the superior, more troops and the air superiority and stuff. So that was at our advantage.
Can you please describe your baptism of fire and your reaction to that experience?
The first baptism of fire was Anzio. I didn't have much trouble when we went in, you know, until the Germans. They were, in other words, like Anzio and Nettuno was the 2 cities. It was like there was a port there, and there wasn't much resistance till you got in, like about 5 miles. And I remember we was in a ditch there, and it was up on the front. We was back, and we was in a ditch, and I remember I was on guard. I don't know, I got off of guard like between 5 and 6 o'clock, and they said our tanks was going to come up and take that factory area that was in front of us. And so I hears our tanks coming up, you know, and I hears the German tanks coming up, and I'm here in the ditch, and the Germans are here, and ours is here, and it was just all day long. And when a tank fires, you hear the explosion first, and then you hear the gun go off, you know, because it's like a bullet,
Yeah.
And it was an interesting day. And there was a farmhouse right behind the ditch, and there was one of our tanks burning, and this house was on fire, and we had to get out of there when it got dark. And we started back, and I remember the Germans started to shell us, and then a couple of our airplanes come over and silenced the guns, and we got out of there. It was interesting.
What impact did the USO have on your military service?
The only place I had with the USO was in London. When I was there for a furlough, I stayed in London at a USO. And for 7 days I stayed, it was like a hotel. Mm-hmm. And you got 3 meals a day, or how many you want, how many you was there for. You know, like during the day you'd go down and go through the city and stuff, you know. But usually, most of the time I'd have breakfast and supper there, you know, with this USO. That's the only connection I had with the USO.
While you stayed there, did you see any famous people?
What's that?
While you were there, did you see any famous people? Did you meet anyone?
No, not really.
Did you use VMail?
I use VMail all the time. I used to write to a lot of people. Pauline, Rose Pisarski, Anna Portage, my brother John. I used to write to a lot of people. Always, when we was back, the only time you ever wrote was when you was back in a rest area. Mm-hmm. Can you visualize, like, when you're in a combat zone, like if you was in a secondary position, you wasn't up on the front all the time. You was like, when you wasn't at the front, you was in a secondary position. And there was times when you'd go months and you never had a change of clothes. Uh-huh. You ate rations all the time. And but when you'd go back in a rest area, then they had showers. You get showers. You get a change of clothes and stuff. Uh-huh. And that you get hot meals and that. So that was nice when you went back to the rest area.
How was VMail used?
I don't know. They used to photograph it or something. I can't remember that part. You wrote it. Then they photographed it and made a little thing like. I can't. I used to write the letters, and that's all I remember.
Did you receive much mail during the war?
The only time you got it when you was back off the front. If you was up in the front, you didn't get no mail. Uh-huh. Like in the rest areas, when you got to a rest area, then you got your mail. You'd get your mail.
What was your immediate reaction to being discharged?
I wanted to get home and have, let's see, well, went home, drawed $20 a week, $20 a week for 52 weeks. That's a year. Mm-hmm. And we did stuff at home. That's when we me and my brother John, we dug out Helen's cellar, put in the sidewalks and stuff. Uh-huh. And we played a lot of cards, we played a lot of ball, because there was like a lot of us guys, and every Tuesday, I remember Tuesday we'd go down and sign up for $20 a week, and you got the check in the mail. Now, I could have went to college, but this was 1946, 45, 46. I wasn't thinking of college. I could have got 3.5 years of college free, but we didn't. In 45, there was very little cars and stuff. I wouldn't. But a lot of guys took advantage that graduated with me, you know.
Mm-hmm. Did you have any welcoming home celebrations?
No, not really.
Have you maintained contact with anybody in your unit?
No.
How did the government reward veterans for their service in the war?
I said that 52-20 or you could go you could go to college. Like I was in over a year, 2.5 years. I could have got 3.5 years of free college. But like I said, I never thought of that. Really, but I enjoyed that year off.
Yeah. Do you think that the government did enough to reward the veterans?
Well, I think they did. But like a lot of them took advantage of that and went to college, and stuff. So they benefited. But I had 52-20, so I mean that was nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's it. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Okay.
I don't know either.